This guy might be the biggest hero in history you've never heard of. Meet Sultan Baibars, the slave who became a king and literally saved the entire Islamic world. I'm serious. This guy handed the unstoppable Mongol army its first real defeat and kicked the Crusaders out of the Holy Land after 200 years. To this day, people tell epic stories about him. But that's only half the story. What if I told you that behind this legendary hero was a dark, twisted secret? What if this savior was also a monster, and his victories were built on a strategy of pure terror, like a doctor using poison as a cure? Forget everything you think you know. Today, we're exposing the chilling truth behind Baibars' rule. This isn't a story about winning battles. It's a story about massacres and cities burned to the ground. This is how one man became a legend, not just as a savior, but as the butcher of an entire city. Before we begin, if you love uncovering hidden dramatic moments from history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment with your thoughts. It really helps us bring you more stories like this one. To understand the monster, you have to see how the warrior was made. Baibars' life was insane from the start. Born on the plains north of the Black Sea, his world was shattered when the Mongols invaded. He was captured, sold as a slave, and passed around like a parcel until he landed in a military academy in Egypt, a place that was like a factory for turning slaves into the deadliest soldiers on earth. And Baibars was a total natural. People said he was huge and intimidating, with piercing blue eyes. He was a born leader. He shot up the ranks because the battlefield was a pure meritocracy. The only thing that mattered was being the best. He became the MVP in defeating a crusade led by the King of France, trapping their army and completely wiping them out. But his biggest moment came in 1260 at Ain Jalut. Baibars led the charge against the same Mongol army that had just steamrolled cities like Baghdad and Aleppo. In a battle that shocked the world, he crushed the Mongols, proving this Goliath could be beaten. Baibars was the ultimate hero. But for a guy this ambitious, being a hero wasn't enough. Right after the battle, the king was assassinated, and Baibars was in on it. He seized the throne for himself. The slave was now the Sultan, and the Holy Land was about to find out how terrifying that was. Once he had unlimited power, Baibars had one goal: finish the war against the Crusaders. But he wasn't going to fight like the heroes before him. That famous King Saladin was known for his honor. Baibars would become known for being cruel. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to erase the Crusaders from existence, to literally tear them out of the ground, root and stem. He built insane fortresses, an entire navy, and a postal service that worked like a medieval internet, allowing him to move his armies at terrifying speeds. His strategy was simple: launch attack after attack, weaken every castle, and show zero mercy. For Baibars, terror wasn't a side effect of war. It was the main weapon. He used fear like a battering ram, aiming to shatter their will to fight long before he shattered their walls. And if you still refused to give up, Baibars had something special and horrifying waiting for you. The first time the world saw this insane new strategy was in 1266, at the mega fortress of Safed. This castle was a major threat, like a loaded gun aimed at his kingdom. After a massive siege, the Templar knights inside were starving and cornered, so they negotiated a surrender. Baibars promised them safe passage if they laid down their arms. The knights agreed. This was the worst mistake of their lives. The second the gates opened, Baibars broke his promise. It was a verbal contract, and he just tore it up. He rounded up the entire garrison, as many as 2,000 men. He gave them a choice: convert to his religion or die. Every single one refused, so Baibars ordered them all to be executed. This massacre was a message to the world. A promise from Sultan Baibars meant nothing. The old rulebook of war was gone, but this was just the warm-up act. The worst was yet to come. The massacre at Safed was a terrifying warning that the war for the Holy Land had entered a brutal new phase. These are the insane details most history channels just skip over. If you want to see more unfiltered deep dives that expose the shocking truth, smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. You will not believe what he does next. 2 years later, in 1268, Baibars went for the ultimate prize, the city of Antioch. This wasn't just some castle, It was a symbol. It was one of the richest and most powerful Christian cities in the world, like the New York or London of the Crusader states, a capital that had stood for over 170 years. But Antioch had made a deadly mistake. They sided with the Mongols. For Baibars, this was the ultimate betrayal, like discovering your neighbor was secretly helping a sworn enemy. He saw the city as a den of vipers. His revenge would be slow, calculated, and absolutely devastating. When Baibars' gigantic army appeared outside the city on May 14, 1268, the leaders tried to make a deal. Baibars refused. The time for talking was over. The siege was faster and more brutal than anyone imagined. The Mamluk army was a perfect war machine, a shark cutting through water, and the city's defenders stood no chance. In just a few days, the walls were smashed open, and the army poured in. What happened next wasn't a battle. It was an extermination. It was pest control, but for a human city. Some accounts claim 17,000 were killed and 100,000 enslaved, and while those numbers might be exaggerated, the reality is still horrifying. Baibars unleashed his army on the population. He ordered the city gates locked, trapping everyone inside for the slaughter. It was like locking the doors of an arena. Men were butchered in the streets. Women and children were herded like livestock to be sold in the slave markets. The city's famous churches and libraries were set on fire. There was so much loot that soldiers were selling priceless treasures for pennies, and the market was so flooded with new slaves that the price of a human being crashed like a stock market, dropping to almost nothing. When it was over, Antioch, once a shining jewel, was just a smoking ruin. Baibars even wrote a letter to the city's prince, who had been away, mocking him with every single gruesome detail. "Had you been there," Baibars wrote, "you would have wished you had never been born." He described priests murdered on their own altars, and how the prince's city was now just a memory. The fall of Antioch was so brutal, it shocked everyone, Christians and Muslims alike. It was the bloody, terrifying centerpiece of Baibars' entire reign. The destruction of Antioch wasn't a one-time thing. This was his game plan. He took down Jaffa, Arsuf, and a dozen other fortresses, dismantling the Crusader kingdoms like a demolition crew taking a building apart piece by piece. There's no doubt he was a military genius and a master politician who built a superstate that could fight off Mongols and Crusaders at the same time, like a boxer taking on two opponents at once and winning. In the Muslim world, he's still seen as a massive hero, the slave king who saved his people. He built incredible architecture, was famously devout, and brought stability after years of chaos. But in the West, his name meant one thing: terror. His brutal attacks triggered another crusade, this time led by Prince Edward of England, but it was too little, too late. Baibars had completely changed the game. He proved that no castle was safe, no truce was real, and no city was safe from his rage. He set the stage for the final expulsion of the Crusaders from the Holy Land just a few decades after his death. So who was the real Sultan Baibars? Was he the savior who stopped a real-life apocalypse, or the butcher who drowned a city in blood? The crazy truth is, he was both. He was two sides of the same bloody coin, a complex, brilliant, and totally ruthless man forged by a brutal world. His legacy proves that history is never a simple story of good versus evil. The legends of his body count might be inflated, but the facts we know for sure, the broken promise at Saft, the calculated slaughter of Antioch, are a testament to his terrifying power. He didn't need crazy numbers to be a monster. The thousands he did kill and the cities he did erase were more than enough. He was a hero to millions, a demon to his enemies, and without a doubt, one of the most powerful and brutal rulers to ever live. So what do you think? Is it fair to judge a 13th century warlord by today's standards? Is Baibars' brutality just a footnote, or does it define his entire legacy? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more insane deep dives into the craziest figures in history, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.